This is Io here. So I'm here with another video on how to what apps I would use to get started to vibe code iOS apps, at least production ready iOS apps. Just from my personal experience. About a few days ago, somebody asked me, what would I what would I use to vibe code apps, and I answered this in a much longer video detailing my experience vibe coding my first app, which is now being submitted for review and should hopefully get approved sometime this week. And I did answer this question in a much longer video, but I might as well make a much more condensed video detailing what you need to use and why you need to use it. So first and foremost, this is designed to be platform agnostic, so this should work on both, Windows and iOS. Now, Windows and Mac, my bad. There are some, platform specific, platforms like Xcode, but I've excluded them just for the sake of simplicity. I am on Mac and I do use Xcode sometimes, but you won't need to use Xcode if you use the stack I'm using. So this will work on Windows as well. But without further ado, let's get right into it. So, let's see. Sorry, that's embarrassing. But first one I would use is first thing I would start with is Cursor or any IDE. I just suggest Cursor because it has AI baked into it. Nowadays, I don't use the AI features because Composer, while really good, is not as good as Codex or, Claude Code for me. I use in a, but Cursor, you just need IDE to get started. There are some, apps, iOS app or Android app specific platforms like Rourke or Vibecode, but those do cost an extra amount of money, and just generally from my experience, they don't really offer that much benefit over just using a more traditional IDE like Visual Studio Code or Cursor. For me, like I said, you can really any IDE would do because I also have other you will be using like an AI code helper like Claude Code or Codex, but I just picked Cursor because it's what I used and it works really well. And it's pretty simple to use. It has a terminal built in, and it has the AI code editor. So which is really good. Composer is really good. It's just that I hit rate limits really fast, and like I couldn't justify paying for Cursor when I already had a $20 ChatGPT Plus subscription, which gave me access to Codex. And but Cursor is really good for what it is. And you can also use Anti-Gravity. I know Anti-Gravity has some has Gemini and Opus 4.5 baked into it, and Opus is amazing. But again, I don't pay for Anthropic subscription, so like I hit rate limits very fast. But for the second part of the stack, is the AI code helper. And this is, for me personally, I use Codex, and the reason why I use Codex is because I am a ChatGPT Plus subscription, so I have a ChatGPT Plus subscription, so it made the most sense to use. But again, I've heard really, really, really great things about Claude Code. If you're on tech Twitter, I'm sure you've seen all the rave reviews about Claude Code this week. And I have used Opus 4.5 in the anti-gravity implementation. And Opus is, I think Codex is just as smart as Opus, if not, slightly smarter. But the thing about Codex is that Codex is much slower than Opus 4.5, which is what Claude Code uses. And it also is a lot more agentic, so it has a lot more confidence just making, bigger decisions without, asking for your input. But I feel like Codex is a really great platform to get started on because it holds your hand a lot. It tells you, hey, this is why I'm making this change. This is how I'm going to make the change. Do you want me to make the change before, every major input, every major change? And I like it a lot because out of the box, it's really powerful. You don't have to, add any skills. You don't have to add any, any add-ons to make it work. And you don't have to do the same for Claude Code, but I've seen a lot of people go crazy with their MCP skill setup. So I really like Codex. I use Codex throughout Fantail's development, and it worked really well. So yeah, this is the AI code helper I would use if you're a beginner because it is really beginner friendly, and you can use it with zero coding experience. Next up is Expo. And Expo is basically what you'll be building your app on. I built my app on Expo. You can use And the reason why I suggest Expo and not Swift is because, again, it's platform agnostic. With Expo and therefore React Native, you can develop applications on both Android and iOS. Now, personally, I'm only an iOS. I'm an iOS app developer only at the moment because I think development on iOS is much more lucrative. But Expo is again really great because you can use it on Windows and Mac. Whereas with Swift development, you can only do so on a Mac, but because Swift app development is is really integrated with Xcode. Like Xcode and Swift go hand in hand, and you won't be able to use Xcode on a Windows PC unless you're using a VirtualBox or something like that. And Expo has basically everything you need, and it is great. Again, like I've heard, there's a ongoing Expo versus Swift thing, and I don't think you really need to get into that type of thing if you are just big developing applications for the first time. Just stick with Expo for now, and the more and more you experience you become, the more you have the experience to be like, oh, this is what I want, this is what I actually want. The more like you can actually start to think about, do I want to use Expo or do I want to use Swift? But if you're just making your first app as a beginner, Expo and React Native has everything you need to have out the box. And the purpose of this is just this is the actual language that you'll be using to develop your applications. So yeah, just stick with Expo. Next up is ChatGPT slash Gemini, and the way this works for me is Gemini was kind of my my creative partner throughout the whole process. I have Pro, but I have Pro because I'm a student. If you're a student, you can get Pro for I think a year, and Pro is great, especially with the new Gemini 3 model and Nano Banana. My own app's icon was actually developed by Gemini. And not only that, but you can also use it to just kind of stress test and talk to somebody or something, I guess in this case, about your ideas and kind of stress test it. Like I found Fantel's idea, or I refined Fantel's idea rather by just talking with both Gemini and ChatGPT Plus, and I arrived at the final idea for ChatGPT for Fantel just by talking with both Gemini and ChatGPT Plus. And I just think it can provide the planning for everything. It can provide the planning for your application. It can provide the planning for your it can give you this whole high level system designs process. It can make your app icon. It can tell you what features should go inside your app. It can tell you what features shouldn't go inside your app. And I just think it's a really great really great as if you don't have the experience and you need some a second opinion. And one thing I am forgetting is Superwall. So Superwall is a paywall platform, and if you decide to make a paywall application, you'll need a paywall. You can make this paywall. You can make the paywall yourself, but Superwall is a dedicated paywall provider being used by some of the largest applications in the world. And I am a firm believer in outsourcing whatever you can to people and organizations that are much more competent than you. And Superwall is great at this stuff because it gives you a paywall editor right out the box. It's extremely easy to integrate inside your application, and it just works. I think it integrates simultaneously with both Google Play and Apple Store Connect very seamlessly. And if you have Apple Store Connect set up, then Superwall works fine, and it's free until you get to 10,000. I think monthly revenue, 10,000, and which is probably not something you'll be hitting for a long time. And so it's free, it works right out the box. So Superwall is what you use for paywalls. You might be asking yourself, what do I need to use for payments? Payment should be handled by the apps, by your respective platform store until you get to a large amount. Honestly, a large amount of revenue. Honestly, I would say forever, indefinitely, really. There's no reason you should be really going around Apple for this stuff. especially with the small business program. I think it's you get 15% taken by Apple instead of normal 30% until you have about $3 million in revenue, yearly revenue, my bad, which is an extremely high number to hit. I think maybe that covers about 95% of applications, if not higher. So I think just, and I can't tell you the number for the Play Store, but yeah, this is basically what I would use. I'll just go over each one really quickly. So again, Cursor for the IDE, uh, Codex for the AI code editor, Expo for the actual language needed to develop your app slash platform to develop your app. Gemini ChatGPT as an ideation partner, and Superwall for the payment for paywalls. And yeah, that's pretty much what I would use, guys. So keep it simple at the beginning. Don't go too complex. Just focus, because you're a beginner. Quite frankly, you won't really have the taste to distinguish between what is good and what's bad. So you should start off simple and focus on really just increasing your skills at this type of stuff, because it can be really overwhelming, because you're jumping into a world where there's a lot more people who are more sophisticated at this than you are. So, but it, as intimidating it is learnable, and you have taken the hardest. You got by starting. You have done the hardest thing. So yeah, good luck, guys. I'll have all the tools I listed in this video in the description. Happy vibe coding, guys, and have a great day.